Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Faupel. Thanks for the invitation, the nice introduction, and for having me here. So I'm really happy and to talk about the concept of energy community, of citizen energy, which I find personally is a good concept for facing global warming, for coping the energy transition in a socially just way. And I know many energy communities, and I did not mention in my CV, for example, that I'm a board member of an energy cooperative here in Germany. And you mentioned, Mr. Faupel, I did really 3 university degrees, and I always tell my kids, I have 3 kids, they should be engaged in the energy community because that is the place where I have learned most in my life. So my engagement of 20 years here, that was really interesting. So to deal with many different people, with many different concepts, and so I'm very happy to share with you the concept. I share my slides. And yeah, so I think I don't see now if there is a hands up, but I will go through my presentation and no, it did not work.
And from the technical side and support, I propose if there are questions during the talk, you can type it down in the chat, and
Mhm.
we have, as I understood, plenty of time to discuss afterwards. Then you can also unmute your microphone and raise your voice directly. We will moderate this together with Professor Faupel and myself.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I know that we have a very international audience, but I very much have the perspective, I have a German and European perspective to talk about energy communities, but also some examples. For example, we did also projects in Eastern Europe, in Ethiopia, in Uganda, in South America. With energy community. But first of all, the point is what you mentioned already, Professor Faupel, it's global warming and also the energy transition. So here you see the goals of the German government. So we still have a government. But I think we have very good and ambitious goals by 2030 in wind and solar, which are the base technologies for our energy transitions. Of course, we have hydro, we have geothermal, we have other technologies, but I mostly talk about wind and solar. And so we see the overall targets for wind onshore and offshore and for solar. And the good news is, for example, that for solar in 23 and 24, we really overachieved the goals. For wind, we are still lacking to meet the goal, but we are becoming better. So that's our goals. And what we see also, what are the challenges below what we are facing with the renewable energy targets and overall the energy transition is we have tenders, we have regular tenders of solar and wind energy, and so we need to increase the volume so to meet our goals. So we are a small country, so we have a lack of potential areas and land. So we have to do a really good and targeted planning. So also to combine it with the social and ecological targets. And we have a lot of bureaucracy and it takes, so at the moment I'm personally involved in a wind planning of 6 wind turbines. So, and it takes 5 to 6 years, and we are not the slowest project consortium doing the development. So we need also to speed up. And of course, we have to expand the grid. So overall, we need an infrastructure expansion. And one very important part is that we need the acceptance for the energy transition overall. And here is where also energy communities and citizen energy comes in, because sometimes we see a lot of opposition and resistance against renewable energy. And it's a high acceptance by many people, but these people are sometimes not loud and do not express so there's a commitment, for example, but we see smaller groups being very loud against, for example, wind wind power plants. So that's the overall situation for the energy transition. And the second is what's already mentioned. So it's an opportunity coming from a centralized and more fossil and nuclear energy here in Germany to a completely renewable energy sector. And here, that's an opportunity for people stepping in, for example, to not only to be a consumer, so to get your energy bill of your utility company, but also to become active. And that's also the story of the last 25 years, what we have seen in Germany with the Renewable Energy Act, also with energy communities, that citizens, farmers, small and medium enterprises, municipalities took over responsibility and started, for example, to build solar power plants or also wind power plants. So that is the big opportunity for citizen energy, which has the big potential and also which goes along our energy transition with renewables. So what is citizen energy? So there is, so we see it in many countries. So we see energy communities in Asia, in India, in South America, in Mexico, in the States, and in Europe, for example. So the organically growing energy communities as front runners have been in Denmark, in Belgium, in Germany. And we see more or less two concepts of citizen energy. It's so the prosumers, so private people, households having a building and using, for example, producing solar energy on the roof. We see, for example, the last 2 years, a concept of the balcony modules. So to have 1 or 2 solar panels to put it on your balcony. So you don't need any permission. You just buy it, you install it, and you plug in. So we have seen more than 500,000 balcony modules. So a very easy concept. So that's also citizen energy. And of course, the concept of energy communities where people come together. And the overall idea is really that it's possible that communities and local entities and households, they produce the energy, they consume it, they distribute it, they manage it anyhow on a local level, and they take over more and more steps of the energy value chain, which was in the last years or last periods more big utility companies. And here it's so the concept of energy communities, which is unfortunately in German. I apologize for that, but here you see the energy community. It can be in a legal form of a cooperative, but it can be also a limited company, a stock exchange company that is that's so we see many options. The energy community is installing renewable energy power plants. So projects, it's solar, it's wind. What we also see now in Germany is that many energy cooperatives, mainly they are planning and constructing and building district heating grids in cooperation with municipalities. And here they produce citizen energy and they supply the members with citizen energy. And the members of the energy community, they invest in the energy community. That's overall the idea of an energy community. So active on a local basis. Very important are the members, and the members are mostly citizens. They are SMEs, municipalities, and the plan is so to use the land, the roofs, the space, what is available in the region in a very efficient way for producing renewable energy and to optimize production and consumption on a local level. That's the basic idea of energy communities. And looking at the business models, so that is again a graph of Germany, but reflects not directly, but also a bit, for example, the situation in Denmark or in Spain or in Belgium, so that many energy communities, they are very active in producing solar energy or wind energy, but they also take over or other steps and of the value chain more and more because it's a growing community. It's for example, they work a lot also with biogas. They are running local heating grids. For example, that is where it's more and more common, and I think it will be also a development in the next year because the municipalities, they have to implement municipal heating plannings. And it's also that they really supply some members with electricity because of course, we have the mechanism of our Renewable Energy Act. So we see in some countries which is a feed-in tariff for renewable energy, for produced renewable energy. And one very common business model, of course, is to plan and to install PV or wind power plants and to sell the produced energy into the grid and to get a feed-in tariff for 20 years. That this provides high security for the investments, and it's a common business model. But what we also see is that on a local level, that the produced energy is organized as an electricity tariff, and the members of the energy community, they can get electricity, they can get green electricity, and they can get hopefully cheaper electricity. And that's, for example, one argument of our topic today, facing the energy crisis, to become more independent of international energy prices and, for example, of geostrategical interventions so that is very important. But here, that's the value chain. It's also energy consulting, energy efficiency. That's a big topic, not the main topic of today, but to renovate our building stock. That's a very important topic, and it's combined because it's what energy communities are also doing because they are very close to the citizens. So because they are acting regionally, so they do a lot of energy literacy. So we have seen, for example, that energy is something very abstract. Many citizens do not know exactly the price for 1 kilowatt hour because they are not yet so interested in checking the energy bill. This has changed in 22 after the invasion in Ukraine, where we have been shocked about the development of the energy prices. But here we see that it's also that members of energy communities, they are more committed, they are more interested in the energy transition, and because they are more involved in all the activity of the energy community. So that's the business models. And I'm here today as a representative of Bündnis Bürgerenergie, a federal association. So we see in many countries such organizations, and the main tasks or our main pillars are really that we are the voice of citizen energy. So we discuss a lot with the policymakers what kind of political framework do we need that we push the potential of citizen energy. So we do a lot of studies. For example, we did studies on energy sharing. We did study, is it possible, for example, in Germany to produce renewable energy and to supply the whole country, including the industry, with electricity. We do also consultancy, and what is very important, we are kind of platform because we are many energy communities in Germany, in Europe, and it's very important to exchange and to learn from each other. And here again, so energy communities in Denmark, in Germany, we have seen the development since, it's the new development, it's since 25 years. In many countries, we have seen energy communities and cooperatives since 150 years. For example, running hydropower plants in remote areas, not connected to the public grid. But now here we, in the frame of the technologies of photovoltaic and wind, we see a kind of new energy communities. And we are also backed and pushed by the European Commission because in the Renewable Energy Directive, they provide definitions for energy communities, and it's a clear commitment to put the citizens into the heart of the energy transition. That's the clear commitment of the European Commission. And here are that what is positive kind of definition of energy communities. It's a broader one of the citizen energy communities, so to be active, not regionally focused, and to deal with renewable and also non-renewable energy sources. And the second one, the renewable energy communities, they are focusing on renewable energy sources and are acting more locally. And I'm talking here more about renewable energy communities. That is a European level. In Germany, we have a definition for renewable energy communities in our Renewable Energy Act. So it relies very much to the European definition of the renewable energy communities. So we can, for example, have different kind of legal forms, cooperatives or associations. We need a minimum of 50 members or overall, and we have to act in a defined region. So local activities, that is very important. And that's good to have a legal definition. So here you see more or less the structure of an energy community. And so the main topic of energy communities are to produce renewable energy, to have a local focus, and to have democratic governance. And that's, for example, that's different to a stock exchange company. What you see on the right hand on the slide, so the structure is quite similar, for example, to a stock exchange company, because you have an executive board, you have a supervisory board, and you have shareholders or you have members in the wording of energy communities. But independently, if you have one share or 1,000 shares, you only have one vote. So that's a quite democratic principle, and it fits very well to a democratic energy transition. And so energy cooperatives are a good concept for energy communities. What is also very important of energy communities, they have the purpose to be successful in an economic way, of course, so to generate surplus, to be able to pay dividends. So that's very important, because there are mostly commercial entities. So it's not only a non-profit, but there are other goals. So it's very important also to meet environmental and social goals. And that's a big difference. And for our understanding, that could be really a great blueprint for other sectors for a sustainable way of doing businesses. And you, in your organization for a sustainable future, so we are always striving for a sustainable future and development. But for our understanding, or for my understanding, we are struggling with our economic systems. And so it might, at least here for energy communities, we see that it can work. So, well, to be honest, it's now on a low level, on a local level. But here we have commercial entities, and they also include social and environmental issues. That means, for example, that to consider environmental topics, that as an energy community, you have in the management to take the decision, should I plan and build a solar farm, even the yield or the dividend is only 4%, not 7%. So it's the environmental decision is yes to go ahead to produce renewable energy. The economic decision is, well, we can't earn a high dividend or high interest rate, but we go ahead because it's very important in terms of to become more energy independent, to increase the share of renewables. But of course, always considering the baseline of a minimum investment return. So that is the unique point of energy communities compared to other types of investors. And of course, we are aware that we need many stakeholders in the energy transition. We need the big investors, but we strive for the goals that we would like to untap and to use the potential of the local and decentralized energy transition with energy communities. And here you see the development of energy cooperatives in Germany. So it's not the full picture because here it's just the energy cooperatives of one association of the cooperative associations, or about 1,000. But it's a quite successful development. So we had some struggles here in this year with tendering. I will report about that also, but overall now we have more than 1,000. And here it's also the development of citizen energy and energy communities since 40 years, because it's so starting with some pioneers. So mainly the nucleus of citizen energy was mainly for people striving for wind and solar, and to see the point that there is a big potential. Then in 2000, we introduced our Renewable Energy Act, which was really a big booster for the energy transition, for solar energy, for wind energy. And we saw the development of many cooperatives and all other forms of limited companies of energy communities. In 2015, we had kind of setback because a tendering system was introduced. So it meant that all the actors in the energy transition, they have to participate in tendering systems for wind and for solar projects, which with the aim to increase expansion, with the aim to enrich the stakeholder variety, and with the aim to reduce the prices. But checking thoroughly the impact of tendering, we see that the aims that did not happen. But overall, now we have the system. But it was for the energy community, it was a problem. And what we also have seen 2020, 21 is what I have mentioned is a clean energy package for all with a high focus on energy communities. And for the future, for 2030 and beyond, so we think that energy communities, they are system relevant. They are able to combine, for example, electricity, heating, because we have to electrify our energy sector, our heating sector, our mobility sector, and to do energy management. So that's the development. It's more or less in Europe, the development, and here are some figures of the energy cooperatives in Germany. As I have mentioned, so we are a small part of the energy system, hopefully growing. The overall, the 1,000 energy cooperatives, they have 220,000 members. They invest nearly 4 billion euro in renewables. They avoid CO2, 3 million tons of CO2, and produce 8 gigawatt hours of wind and solar energy. But it's only a share of 3% of renewable energy generation in Germany. I show you later on what we are aiming for, coming from the 3%. What could be a booster for energy communities? That is energy sharing. So energy sharing means that it is allowed to sell and to share produced renewable energy via the public grid. That's at the moment not as easy. So you have to fulfill all the rights and duties of a utility company. Energy sharing is also foreseen by the European Commission, that it's possible for energy communities, and this is what we are striving for. So we see it in Europe, in Spain, in Austria, in Italy, in the Netherlands. And in Germany now we have a draft for the new law, and that would really boost energy communities, because it's against the system that citizens, they become members of the communities. The communities, they plan and install the renewable energy power plants, and they are really able to provide electricity tariffs out of the produced renewable energy in the region, and to provide the citizens with renewable energy, and of course to buy the still missing energy what can't produce, for example, in the region. That is the idea of energy sharing, and it would be possible for energy communities, and it would mean for our understanding, because now the main point of energy communities is that people can become a member, they can get out a dividend, so they have a vote at the energy community, and they can get out a dividend. And the third part, what is very important, is really to get cheaper electricity from the region of electricity power plants in the region. Yeah, so we have worked out a concept with other organizations in Germany. Also, we are in exchange with organizations in Brussels, for example, the umbrella organizations of energy cooperatives in Europe, Rescoop. And the key concept is that there is energy communities implementing renewable energy power plants. The members of the energy communities, they get an electricity tariff of the energy community. It needs in the first years it needs financial subsidies, because there are higher investments for smart metering, for forecasting, for example, etc. So we propose to pay an energy sharing premium, but this, for example, also the concept in Italy. And we propose to integrate new power plants and also existing renewable energy power plants. What we need, and where we are not very good in Germany, but other countries are really advanced, like Spain, but it needs a quarter-hourly balancing of the consumption and generation. So we have to speed up with digitalization. And of course, it needs the integration of other service providers. And here, for example, we could talk to the DSOs, to the grid operators, to take over certain tasks for energy sharing. And we did also a study with a partner, with a research institute, about the potential of energy sharing in Germany. So it was a modeling what we did, considering where people are living, considering what kind of potential for solar and wind energy is available. Very brief, so I also share the link of the study with you here. I guess there is also an English summary. So the outcome is that at least we could have 6,000 renewable energy communities, that more than 90% of the household could become a member. So it's really a broad concept, and most of the households, they can become a member of an energy community and benefit from energy sharing, which is very important for a socially just energy transition. And we would have the potential to contribute 35% to the renewable energy targets. I have shown you the energy targets in the first slide for wind and solar. And so it's 1/3. It would be really, it's a big part where we can contribute, or where the energy communities can contribute to the renewable energy targets. And here, well, and I have to admit, it's really a very simplified calculation, but what I did now is to take demand of renewable electricity planned by the German government by 2030. So we need 721 billion euro of investments of the German energy industry. And here you see for green power generation, it's for grids, it's for district heating, it's for hydrogen storage, and for green gases. And I just checked here, for example, the numbers of the green power generation plans of 354 billion euro invested into mainly solar and wind. And assuming at the moment that many energy communities say, well, they do, for example, a lot in district heating, but I just assumed, or we just assumed that energy communities mainly invest in solar and wind, so in green power generation. And here it's maybe a share of 75% because we have hydro, we have geothermal, for example. And it would mean that here's a 25% of the overall green power generation would be 265 billion. And beforehand, I mentioned that our study results that energy communities and the concept of energy sharing, so the matching and the using of the local potential could be about 1/3, could be about 35%. It would mean that the contribution of energy communities and also the contribution of the citizens of local energy projects could be 92 billion euro. That's really a lot. So, and it's just to have also the figures because it's very important. Energy transition is a big task. It's a big task of the whole society. And the main message here is that energy communities and many citizens, they can really bring a big contribution and can also push a just transition, can increase acceptance for the energy transition. That is the main message here. And here it's also as a graph, just to stress the point that we start with on-site supplies, that our approach is really to start on a super local level, to have houses, to have family houses, so to use photovoltaic for the family houses, also to have maybe condominiums and multifamily houses, and to have here, for example, tenant models, and to become bigger and to have, so here's a concept, a small concept, what you see are concepts behind the meter. So you produce in a building renewable energy to use it, and the surplus you sell to the grid. But the idea of energy sharing is really to include bigger production power plants, and so to match the production and the consumption. And that's the main idea, so to have the simultaneity of a network of consumption, of generation, and of storage, and also of flexibility options. So to use the potential what you have in the neighborhood. And this needs to be matched with the big power plants, for example, but the planning, what we approach is really to start from a bottom up to see what can be produced, consumed, and optimized on a local level. That is the overall idea of energy communities. And here, nearly everybody can become active as a member of an energy community, as to be engaged in the board, in the supervisory board, in a working group of an energy community in one of the 1,000 communities we have in Germany or also in other countries. And here that's also the point how we can face the energy crisis, because of course what we have seen in 22, it's the energy crisis, the shock of the energy prices was mainly due to the development of the gas price. At the moment, the system that the price for fossil energy is driving the prices, and the higher the share of renewable energy, the more price stability we have, and we can reduce the energy costs. We admit, of course, we need the infrastructure, but in the long term, we see the cheap prices of solar and wind. That's one very important argument. And the second, of course, what is for municipalities, for example, very important is really the local resilience. And here we do not talk about autonomy. So I think that it's not the topic. We are in Germany, we are in Europe, so we have an international energy system. We don't need autonomy, but we should increase the resilience. So we should use the potential what we have, and so we have more energy securities, and we are more protected from crises like the energy crisis in 22 and 23. It's also a topic for mitigating energy poverty. So that, for example, it could be included that energy poor households, they get different tariffs, for example, they get better protection of cut-offs. So we have 40 million energy poor people in Europe, in the European Union, not in Europe. So it's very high. The number increased. I guess in Germany we have every year 300,000 power cuts. So the electricity supply is cut by the utility provider because people can't pay or they pay. So I think that can be, energy communities can provide a concept here to reduce energy poverty. Yeah, I mentioned already the environmental sustainability. And what is also very important is the grid resilience. So we have also in our study, we found out because at the moment, we are struggling with our grid infrastructure. It has to be improved. It has to be expanded, but with optimized energy management on local levels, we know that, for example, the capacity of the grids, they could be 25 to 30% more. So that's one point. And the second point is also the resilience. So to use, for example, to do a perfect energy management on local level, and so to reduce also the capacity of the grid expansion. And what is difficult to measure, but we have a lot of studies that the participation at energy communities increases significantly the acceptance, also for example, for wind power plants. What we also see is that it increases the energy literacy, so to increase the interest for the energy topics, so to check maybe your energy bill to see what is part of your energy bill, what do you pay. And it's also social inclusion. So it's a kind of democratic development. But I know it's a very weak argument, but I think in our times it's super important to use also opportunities to strengthen democracy with, for example, civic engagement. And overall, it pushes the expansion of the renewable energy development overall, because we have to speed up. We have to do it in a socially just way. So we have to check the interests of the people, the prices, the technologies, the expansion of wind and solar, and so that it can be a strong contribution. So here I shared some good practices with you of really bigger energy communities. For example, in the left-hand side, it's an energy community with more than, like an umbrella organization, also with more than 100 energy cooperatives as members, and they provide electricity tariffs for energy communities. So it's really like a utility company. It's a very professional company, and they provide electricity tariffs. At the moment, they are also developing a business model to support energy communities for the project development for field power plants and wind farms, which is the more risky part, of course, of the whole value chain. So that's very interesting and also a quite big player. We also, in the middle, there is an energy cooperative in the southern part of Germany, close to Munich. They are also very experienced. They did already a lot of big field power plants. Now they developed and realized a big district heating system. And they also started 2020 with the first power purchase agreement. So it's not to feed into the system, but also to have an agreement with an energy consumer, with big industry companies, for example, and also so to set up a new business model. And on the right-hand side, it's a nice concept of 4 municipalities and 3 energy cooperatives to develop a wind farm in close to Munich, which is very challenging because it's a densely populated region, but it works very well, and it's a great cooperation project, and it will produce more than 60 million kilowatt hours of energy, and so can supply within energy sharing a part of the people living here in the region. So there are many more good practice, but it shows that energy communities are not only very small entities, so they can really grow and they can become bigger. So yeah, I think overall big potential. So we talk about sustainable development. So I checked here again also the sustainable development goals. So we do not talk only about the SDG 7, so safe and clean energy, but we see also a lot of other positive benefits out of energy communities. So it's education, it's equality, it's local value chain, it's climate protection. So big potential. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention and happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. First talk is combating the energy crisis, untapping the potential of citizen energy and energy communities. We are really looking forward to your talk.